really the sort of poetry we want. But I wonder whether it ever occurs to the writer of criticism like that really one agrees with them. But what one writes is based so much on the kind of person one is and the kind of environment one's had and has now that one doesn't really choose the poetry one writes. One writes the kind of poetry one has to write or can write.
That's what I think so marvellous about your poetry. It exactly describes the surroundings in which you live and the feelings of a detached observer, and it's easily understood by everyone. Those great strolling lines, I mean, when I look outside there and I see from this flat that dusty sycamore and those burnt-out chestnut candles sheltering the public park below us, I think of your poem Toads Revisited.
And well you may. Walking around in the park should feel better than work. The lake, the sunshine, the grass to lie on, blurred playground noises beyond black-stockinged nurses, not a bad place to be. Yet it doesn't suit me, being one of the men you meet of an afternoon, palsied old step-takers, hair-eyed clerks with the jitters, wax-fleshed-out patients, still vague from accidents, and characters in long coats deep in the litter baskets, all dodging the toad work by being stupid or weak. Think of being them, hearing the hours chime, watching the bread delivered, the sun by clouds covered, the children going home. Think of being them, turning over their failures by some bed of lobelias, nowhere to go but indoors, no friends but empty chairs. No, give me my in tray, my loaf-haired secretary, my "Shall I keep the call in, sir?" What else can I answer when the lights come on at 4 at the end of another year? Give me your arm, old toad. Help me down Cemetery Road.
I can absolutely understand your coming into this cemetery, Philip, because it's a bit of wild country in the middle of Hull, with the most splendid exotic trees and winding walks. And these tombstones everywhere, I suppose, represent deathbeds in the 40s and 50s of the last century of rich Hull merchants in big Italian-lit houses in Pearson Park, where you are.
Yes, and the avenues off Pearson Park.
That was the classy part of Hull, and this was the smart cemetery where people came on a Sunday, I suppose, with their families. I notice that it's become derelict now. Saplings of sycamore, nettles, elder, in among the tombstones. So I'd rather it like this than all that neat ordered sort of housing estate of the new cemetery.
I find that when I come here on a wet Sunday afternoon in December or something like that, when it isn't at all romantic, it gets me into perspective, it gets my worries into perspective, and everything I write, I think, has the consciousness of approaching death in the background.
You get it beautifully in your poem about ambulances, that line, "In time all streets are visited," and I remember the 4 lines in it. "And sense the solving emptiness that lies just under all we do, and for a second get it whole, so permanent and black and true." Did you find, when you started writing, if you look back at it now, it's the most awful tripe?
Most awful tripe, yes. You were writing very well at the university. I was ploughing on with a kind of Yeats and water until I was about 26 or 7. I was looking at some of it the other day, and it astonished me. It's not so much that it's bad, but it was so unreal and without any possible reference to my own life as I was living it.
The first poem of yours I recall is church-going.
Yes, I didn't think it was terribly successful. At that time, I'd rather formed the habit of going out cycling on Sundays, partly for exercise, partly because I hadn't got anything else to do. And whenever I saw a church, I used to stop and look inside. It was a nice excuse for stopping, but I liked going into them. I know very little about them, but I always welcomed the feeling I had going into a church, and in the end I began to try to write about it.
Once I'm sure there's nothing going on, I step inside, letting the door thud shut. Another church. Matting, seats and stone and little books, sprawlings of flowers cut for Sunday, brownish now, some brass and stuff up at the holy end, the small neat organ, and a tense, musty, unignorable silence, brewed God knows how long. Hatless, I take off my cycle clips in awkward reverence, move forward, run my hand around the font. From where I stand, the roof looks almost new, cleaned or restored. Someone would know, I don't. Mounting the lectern, I peruse a few hectoring large-scale verses and pronounce, "Here endeth," much more loudly than I'd meant. The echoes snigger briefly. Back at the door, I sign the book, donate an Irish sixpence, reflect the place was not worth stopping for. Yet stop I did. In fact, I often do, and always end, much at a loss like this, wondering what to look for. Wondering, too, when churches fall completely out of use, what we shall turn them into, if we shall keep a few cathedrals chronically on show, their parchment, plate and pyx in locked cases, and let the rest rent-free to rain and sheep. Shall we avoid them as unlucky places? Or, after dark, will dubious women come to make their children touch a particular stone, pick simples for a cancer, or on some advised night see walking a dead one? Power of some sort or other will go on in games, in riddles, seemingly at random, but superstition, like belief, must die, and what remains when disbelief has gone? Grass, weedy pavement, brambles, buttress, sky, a shape less recognizable each week, a purpose more obscure. I wonder who will be the last, the very last, to seek this place for what it was. One of the crew that tap and jot, and know what rood lofts were? Some ruin bibber, randy for antique, or Christmas addict, counting on a whiff of gown and bands and organ pipes and myrrh? Or will he be my representative, bored, uninformed, knowing the ghostly silt dispersed, yet tending to this cross of ground through suburb scrub, because it held unspilt so long and equably what since is found only in separation?